Welcome! Today we're going to relax and color a mandala. We'll also go over what supplies you can use and basic coloring techniques. Remember, we're coloring just for fun, so don't worry if you're a beginner or if it turns out perfectly. This is all about the joy of coloring. So let's get started. First, follow the link, and then print your mandala. Once you've printed it, go ahead and gather your coloring supplies. So you can have pencils, markers, crayons, it could be anything you want or anything you have on hand. If you're using markers, make sure to have something underneath it, so a plastic mat, several sheets of scrap paper, or a sturdy piece of cardboard. For watercolors, if you can, use watercolor paper. It will prevent your work from tearing or rippling. But if you don't have watercolor paper and all you have is printer paper, that should be okay too. Just make sure not to use too much water. Finally, find a comfortable seat, a nice flat surface to work on, good lighting, and good air circulation. For this video, I'm going to use colored pencil, watercolors, watercolor markers, and alcohol markers. To get started, ask yourself, what colors are you in the mood for? Red? Blue, even rainbow? And then you want to ask yourself, where do you want those colors to go? Are the lighter areas going to be in the outside or in the center? You could even make a pattern like petals or spirals. For this tutorial, the outer ring will be a dark blue, then teal, and it will gradually get lighter as I go in until I reach a pale yellow at the center. Before working on the final project, I recommend testing your ideas on a scratch piece of paper. You could also experiment with different color schemes on the computer. The computer makes it easy to test out different colors for any specific area. Here, you can see I've adjusted the outer ring of diamonds to see what I like. You could do orange or green or teal. You can even see what entirely different color schemes look like by using a filter over the entire piece. Now that we've come up with a plan, we can start on the final project. To begin coloring, I started with the outer ring of diamonds. For each section, I recommend choosing 2 to 3 versions of the same color, one dark, one middle, and one light version. For the outer ring, I've chosen to go from a dark blue to a royal blue and then to a light aqua blue. You can see I began coloring the shape with my darkest color first. You can begin coloring with the lightest area of the shape if you want, it's up to you. For a full list of supplies and specific colors I use in this video, check out the description below. Next, I come in with my medium or mid-tone color. Notice how I'm starting inside the previous color, then moving towards the white area. When I move towards the white area, I lighten the pressure in one smooth motion until it's lifted off the page. This is called feathering or flicking. It's useful because the areas where you put less pressure have less ink on the page, allowing other colors to mix with it easier. It allows for smoother shading. You'll see fewer harsher lines as well. You can see I added a second midtone here, and now I've moved on and added my lightest color. My lightest color isn't very light in the grand scheme of things. I want to make my outer layer a fairly dark area. Then I went back in with my darkest color to add more depth. You don't have to do this if you don't want to. I actually used purple here because purple tones on top of blue make it look extra dark. If you haven't started already, now it's your turn. So again, I started with my dark blue, moved on to my midtones, and then adjusted a little bit of the light color in the center. If you're noticing you're going outside of the lines, that's just fine. I am too. What I plan to do is to color in the spaces in between after I'm done filling out the shapes to even it all out. For this next ring of diamonds, I use a dark teal on the outside and then a light teal on the inside. I finished the marker portion with a colorless alcohol ink. For the teal diamonds, I'll show you what it looks like to color on top of the alcohol markers with colored pencil. This technique is a favorite among artists. With a dark blue pencil, I go over the dark teal area on the outer edge. Next, I added a dark teal pencil. Here, I added a medium green for variety. Just like with alcohol markers, I go back to the previous color to perfect the blend. Lastly, I finish the diamond with a light blue-green colored pencil. It's still pretty dark compared to the rest of the colors I'll be using later though. Now it's your turn. For the second one, I'm showing you what it looks like to go from light to dark. So I went in with my lightest green, and then I added my light blue-green, blending it back and forth. And then there's my dark teal, and finally my dark blue. For the third ring, I go towards a pure deep green rather than a teal. So I have a dark green on the outside, and then I move toward a warmer, lighter green on the inside. Then I grab a bright spring green for the center, a darker olive color for that middle area, and then a deep green for the outside. I even add a little bit of that deep blue that I used in the second ring to add extra depth. Now it's your turn. Alright, let's try watercolor. For watercolor, you want to add your lightest color first. So in the center, I added my light yellow with a small brush. In my palette, I watered down the color so it would be less bright. However, I still have to be careful not to add too much water as I'm using printer paper instead of watercolor paper. Then I add a light green watercolor marker and I blend it in with the yellow. Next, I add a dark green color. Again, blending it in with the lighter green. Then for the outer edge, I add a deep green. Yes, you can use Crayola markers like watercolors. To finish the diamond, I go back over the colors in reverse order to smooth things out. For the alternating diamonds in this ring, I use warm green colors going from a dark olive to a light green. At last, we've made it to the large flower. So now I'll show you what it looks like to move from light to dark with alcohol markers. I start with a light spring green, and then I moved in with a little bit darker color, and then finally I go in with a medium dark green color. So I moved from a light warm green to a more blue green on the outside. To smooth everything out, I went back in with the dark colors, moving into the light colors. Here you can see I just went in and added a little bit of detail. Since I'm about to use a light yellow in the center, I choose the lightest yellow greens I have to transition from green to yellow. Alright, we made it to the center. On the edges, I use a bright yellow watercolor marker. Then I blend it in with water until finally I fill the very center with a pale yellow alcohol marker. Thank you for joining me, and enjoy coloring the rest of your mandala.